But the world of traditional collateral is a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity where money funds are not yet widely used as collateral for all sorts of reasons. But put a tokenized wrapper around them, and here's your perfect use case. So I don't think it's any accident that that's where we're seeing huge growth in this market. We have a perfect use case. We have a solution that suits money fund managers, collateral pledgers and receivers, regulators, central banks. I mean, it's such a perfect positive storm. So that's where this whole thing, in my opinion, is going to take shape.
Excellent. Or go ahead, Sandy. I think.
So I think those were both excellent examples. We really are seeing, I think, two newer things that are starting to happen. I think that last year was kind of the year of stablecoins, and I think there was a lot of interest in stablecoins, a lot of growth in stablecoins. But I think it's evolving beyond that now. We're calling it this universal liquidity layer. And this universal liquidity layer is much more interoperable. It's getting to a lot of what Kim just spoke about in terms of collateral. It's getting towards more optimized use of cash. It's getting towards multiple options and pathways as on and off ramps. It's getting towards a growing set of yield-bearing products, right? And it's really becoming this liquidity layer that is enabling everything to start to move on chain, because the cash and the payment rails are there to now make it easy to buy other assets on chain. Like, we almost needed this evolutionary step to get this layer working where the financial system itself can start to optimize access, payment, utilization of assets on chain, the things that Cynthia was talking about earlier. So I think there's a lot of demand in this universal liquidity layer to really begin to plug these rails in. A lot of the announcements that Ian and the Ondo team were making earlier around what they're trying to enable with prime brokerage, what they're trying to enable with perps, that's all, I think, illustrative of this universal liquidity layer. And now, because that is really advancing very quickly, we're now able to start to be launching the products on top of it that are moving the assets out of these fragmented accounts that everything sits in today into the wallet. And then getting those assets into the wallet is where new demand is emerging, new demand from people who have wallets and want to directly access assets, new demand from people who have tremendous crypto profits, whatever's left after the last few days, but tremendous crypto profits that they're looking to get diversified, right? We're going to start to see now the product layer that sits on top of this universal liquidity layer expand a lot. And there are multiple demand sources emerging for that. So it's a very exciting time. What's interesting is most of the demand sources are still digitally native demand sources, and therefore it's flying under the radar, I think, of a lot of the traditional financial industry. You really have to be aware of how the infrastructure is developing to understand where the pockets of demand are coming from right now. But as things move on chain, that's going to become better and better understood.
What is going on, Aqua Bro?
Was good,
man. There's been some extremely bullish things said over the past consecutive couple of days, primarily the last week, that I feel like a lot of people, it needs to be brought to a lot of people's attention. So I want to start today's video breakdown with just playing some of the clips. I'm going to mute you when you're not speaking because you got some background noise. Some of the video clips from the Ondo Finance Summit. And then I want to also play a couple of video clips from the Defiant podcast that took place just a day ago, where they had the CEO of Coinbase Institutional say some things. Considering the market sentiment that we've experienced over the past week, it's so crazy that, you know, the retail spectrum and mindset, especially people that were overstimulated and over expecting certain things from prices in 2025, that all got dialed back over the past couple of days. But I want to realign all of our followers with what's really happening behind the scenes. The infrastructure is for a fact being built out. and institutional demand and interest is increasing on a granular scale, the likes of which we've never seen before. Now is not the time to be fearful. So, you all just heard from Sandy Call right there. She pretty much mentioned that this is an exciting time to be alive. The infrastructure is in place. We're really going to start to see things move on chain and out of these fragmented silos and start to really transition over into this digital wallet based infrastructure that she's been talking about for some time. So while Aqua's still getting set up, I want to play one more video clip that Sandy Call had mentioned. Shout out to Ondo Finance for this one. This is on their YouTube page, live from their New York summit that took place just the other day on February 3rd. And I want to take you guys to 141, where she talks about how all of our wealth is going to be handled in wallets and digital wallets and by AI agents. Take a second and listen to this one right here.
You can now really tie your day-to-day objectives to the way in which your entire portfolio is constructed and how you can access that portfolio. And it's all through the ease of one app.
Yeah, I would say that, there's going to be no differential between banking, wealth management, asset management, personal investing. Each person's totality of their wealth is going to be represented in these wallets, and the advice layer that's going to be able to be brought into that and around that, the degree of personalization, as Cynthia says, that's going to be applicable to that, and the ability for every one of us to bring every asset we own into the portfolio and have it considered as part of our personal exposures, that's going to be commonplace. You're not even going to notice this. This is going to be handled by agents, by smart contracts. This is going to just be your portfolio, and the way that it enables your life is going to be happening moment to moment in your life, and you're not even going to notice it because it's going to be so seamless and smooth.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, that was huge confirmation at the Ondo Summit that took place recently that, from an institutional perspective, she physically said everything is about to move over to these digital wallets. Your entire wealth is going to be in digital wallets, You have anything to comment on that?
I was just gonna say we've been talking about that though for going on 2 years now since we first started talking about AI agents. So it's amazing to see a representative from Franklin Templeton say it on stage now, someone who has way higher credentials than us, but something that was already on our foresight 2 years ago. So.
Yeah, huge confirmation. Let's roll over into this gentleman here. Shout out to the Defiant for this one. You guys can go check this podcast out on the Defiant's YouTube channel. But I have a couple of video clips to play from this gentleman. This is the CEO of Coinbase Institutional, and he, again, considering the most recent market downturn that we've experienced, doesn't seem worried at all, not one bit, and instead actually says some extremely bullish things that I feel like a lot of people, this video only has 407 views, will overlook because they're so fixated right now on price and so on and so forth, when in reality, this was just a massive opportunity, this recent pullback, in my personal opinion. Again, not financial advice. But so don't take that from me. Take that from the gentleman here, CEO of Coinbase Institutional. I got about 3 video clips I want to play, and then Aqua, you're more than welcome to intervene and comment if you have anything. But here he goes on to talk about how people should be paying very close attention, and that huge banks are 110% locked in and focused right now on the adoption of digital assets, crypto, this entire digitally native infrastructure. So just take a second here and listen to what he says. Some of the biggest. Let me find the clip. It's about 9 minutes into the video.
What I think is really remarkable about that is JP's been building for years, and they too have native crypto capability.
Yeah, but we noted, actually, Chris wrote about it in our Real World newsletter, that it was interesting to see JP Morgan using USDC instead of their own JP Morgan coin to do that, and doing it kind of in like open rails instead of their more closed system.
Yeah, so what I take away from that is I think that was a marker for JP to demonstrate that They're open to using open blockchains, public blockchains. They're open to using stable coins other than JP Morgan deposits or other coins. And I think it's really, for me, I see a signal in it. And the signal is it's the beginning of tokenization taking form, and maybe the beginning of this promise of crypto having disrupted traditional financial markets. It's beginning to happen. So people should take note when one of the world's largest banks actually takes this brave step into the space. So that was a really big deal. And then the fourth big announcement was participation in a tokenization, another tokenization that's happening around Mubadala's credit fund. And so that will become the first time a sovereign wealth fund from that region that's actually tokenized and opened up access to their credit portfolio. So that's a huge deal.
Wait, so the sovereign wealth.
Now, I just want you guys to take what he said kind of into consideration. Mind you, this is just from the other day, so this is fresh. And he said that this, for the first time, is starting to show that crypto is really starting to disrupt traditional finance. So he's saying that in 2026, okay? Mind you, everything that we've experienced, especially if you've been in crypto as long as I have, since 2016, and you have the CEO of Coinbase Institutional saying for the first time, this thing with JP Morgan is just now starting to really show that crypto is disrupting traditional finance. That sets the precedence for where we're at in the space right now at literally ground zero, the first inning. Like what happens between now and 2030 and beyond is what really truly matters. Everything before was just speculative hype and over opinionated bullcrap. And now is the time to really pay attention and focus. As this gentleman said, you shouldn't overlook these things and you should pay attention. I don't know if you had anything, Aqua, go ahead.
No, I feel like, I would just sound exactly what you just said. So no, I feel like it's, now's the time though. I mean, and we're the ones that are paying attention too. So
a company onboards and activates and begins to do some things the way
Ban theory.
they want the list order payment. I really
Like crypto as a service.
Okay, so the next little tiny clip that I have, he goes on to talk about how institutions are interested in adopting crypto at scale. And again, you know, considering the backdrop that we've seen most recently, this just, in my personal opinion, should electrify you as an individual retail investor in the space to really lock in and focus not on the current market sentiment as something that should induce fear, uncertainty, and doubt, but instead should be seen as an opportunistic moment to really capitalize on projects that are changing the space, that are partnering with the largest institutions, that are really being utilized for the underlying utility and value of the network. And again, that word opportunity is of key importance here. Okay, so just take a second and listen to what this gentleman says. Then I have one more video clip after.
Use cases are they interested in?
Well, that list is really long and eclectic because when you think about the super big picture that we talked about, why institutions are coming in, they're coming in for the investment case. Maybe they want to invest, but progressively with the passage of the Genius Act, they're now coming in to say, I think I want to enable cross-border payments. And so if you think about that whole section, then you have the list of financial intermediaries, financial services companies, all sorts of people that want to activate for payment-related use cases are actually coming in, and they will use the CDP stack. Remember I talked about the Coinbase developer stack, and on it are we expose many of the Prime APIs. So you can use custody as a service, brokerage as a service, wallet as a service to facilitate payments. And so it's the longest list of really cool firms, many of which have probably in the process of disclosing and making more announcements, but there are amazing integrations. And so that's really the client set that I would stack together as saying that's the group that is looking at us as an infrastructure provider.
It's so cool what's happening right now, because I think like for the longest time, that was the theory of how crypto would go mainstream, that you'd see fintechs and banks just like adding it to their backend and using crypto rails, and that the end user would just like see their like traditional just like finance interface and not even know that they're necessarily using crypto. But now that's actually happening.
It's really happening. Yeah. It's not even happening like a little bit, it's happening at giant scale.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited about it. Every time a company onboards and
so he said it's not even just happening, it's happening at scale. And what the lady from the Defiant mentioned kind of correlates with the video clip that I played from Sandy Call from Franklin Templeton, she said the same exact thing, that this is all about to happen so fast and so granular, but the everyday average individual is not going to know that their, bank app is sitting on crypto rails, is sitting on blockchain rails. It's just going to transition. It's just going to happen. And people like you and I that are watching this space grow and evolve and, converge, I'd say, with traditional finance are going to know what's happening. And that's where the opportunity lies, where, once this really takes off, and this gentleman again just confirmed that this is about to start to happen at scale, there isn't going to be an opportunistic moment like this ever again in human history, if I'm being completely honest. Myself and Aqua have been advocates of saying that, once we surpass 6 trillion, 7 trillion, 8 trillion, even $10 trillion plus in market cap of crypto, and once these projects really take off and are actually adopted at scale, we're not going to see the opportunistic, landscape that we're seeing right now ever again in history. So how much longer this is going to last, nobody has a crystal ball, but we all know that real generational wealth is made in bear markets, not bull markets. Where you position yourself in bear markets and pullbacks and discounted environments and fear-induced environments is what actually makes you money in this space once the markets recover. So that was just, again, huge confirmation. Last video clip I have is him just going on to reiterate that this is happening and it's a huge moment for the space. Take a second and listen to the last video clip I have from the CEO of Coinbase Institutional.
It doesn't mean it's true. So it's really when you can say I have a whole cascade of announcements and here are all the use cases. And by the way, we're live. So for example, a blow your mind moment for me was the announcement that JP Morgan and Coinbase teamed together to facilitate the trading of JP Morgan deposits on Base. Like amazing. Like, when did you ever think you'd see that? Sometimes I feel like I speak to both your existing listeners and hopefully another set, but the crypto community sometimes I don't think puts enough importance around how significant a moment that is for us, the crypto world, as an industry, to have, again, one of the world's largest banks putting into use a use case where their deposits are being traded on an open blockchain. I mean, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
We didn't think we'd see it this soon, but yet it's happened and it's happening. And so these are the moments where I have to say to boardrooms and CEOs and CIOs to say, it's not a fuzzy idea in the future. It's now happening. And it's happening because we have regulation that's come into place and we have big firms that have gone into the space and actually set these things in motion.
I guess what's maybe, I don't know your thoughts about this.
So that was the last video clip that I had for you guys for the first portion of my presentation today, just to kind of set the tone considering the environment that we've been in for the past couple of months since October of last year, especially considering the valuations of these digital assets. Sometimes it's hard to really separate your mentality from what's happening in the moment from what's going to happen long term. And so I just want to bring everybody back down to earth. If you're still here in this space and you still have a firm belief in the assets that you hold and you understand what it is that you hold and you have a long-term perspective, you're in the right space, because once all of this really kicks in, and according to these individuals that I just showed you all that spoke recently on stage, there isn't going to be another moment like this in history to really just completely take advantage of this space before these institutions flood the F in. It almost gives me chills. Go ahead, Aqua.
And this gentleman, I mean, he had said gigantic. I mean, I don't think these type of guys with this status and this level use words like gigantic so freely. You know what I mean? So the fact that he used gigantic is telling me that, like, man, we're definitely heading into trillions of dollars coming very soon. When that time comes, though, who knows? But I also want to say that, I mean, I don't know, the way these guys are talking, it might even come a little sooner before 2030. But I mean, I'm ready either way, so.
I couldn't agree more, man. So I want to transition over into the second portion of today's video breakdown, and I want to first touch on some things in regards to Canton, play some video clips from an individual gentleman from Signum Bank that go hand in hand with something that Yuval said about how, the utility on the network eventually trickles down to individuals, token holders, right? Token holders, app developers, so on and so forth, and how it just shows that Canton was built with token holders in mind. And that is huge considering the most recent downturn that we've seen. And then I kind of want to transition and show you guys a fundamental piece that Ripple put out on their website just yesterday that kind of goes hand in hand with hopefully them, if they commit themselves to some of the things that they mentioned in the piece themselves. If they commit themselves to some of those developments, it should reflect in greater demand for the digital asset XRP, and then therefore, obviously, of course, trickle down and support the token holders of XRP, the digital asset. So first, obviously, of course, take a look at this. This is the crypto bubbles map, and I have some of my favorite assets in this, and they are on the monthly display. Now, over the last month, okay, this is not AI generated or anything like that. Anybody can go and put this in themselves, and just looking at price action over the last month, over the last 30 days from January 5th to February 5th, the crypto market shed over $1 trillion. Think about that. $1 trillion was wiped from the digital asset ecosystem. And Canton, Hyperledger, and a few others were still up a substantiating amount, double-digit amounts in terms of percentages across the board compared to the entire rest of the crypto ecosystem. So I said here in this post, what we are seeing in this market right now is a broad risk-off move hitting speculative crypto assets. Most public chains and tokens still trade like high beta risk assets driven by leverage, sentiment, and liquidity cycles, not like utility assets driven by real utility and dollars actually flowing through the network. This bloodshed for me was a wake-up call. Most people will unfortunately ignore. It shows confirmation that 95% plus of layer ones, some with over a decade of operating experience live in these markets, still aren't being used by institutions at scale. Even though the headlines often make it sound like they are, when liquidity dries up, speculation gets exposed, and only real utility matters. What does real utility mean? Real utility means networks that institutions are actively using for settlement, collateral, and financial infrastructure. And there's a big difference between real utility and assumed utility. How many assets out there, networks out there, are assumed by researchers and the likes of influencers on the internet to be utilized by these institutions? Again, I'd say 95% plus, considering the market downturn that we've just experienced. So assumed utility means projects that retail investors hope institutions will use someday. There's a big difference, and markets recently reminded everyone of that. Canton Network is fundamentally different, and the screenshot of the monthly gains says it all. Over the last 30 days, from January 5th to February 5th, the total market cap lost over $1 trillion in market value, and Canton was still up 20% during that entire market downturn. This is honestly mind-blowing for anyone who actually likes to make money in crypto, because to me, that seems to be like Canton is a safe haven asset in this digital asset ecosystem. What separates strong digital asset networks from purely speculative tokens is whether the technology is designed to bring real value back to token holders through actual usage. Now, digital assets has focused on building the network where the token is connected to real financial activity, settlement, collateral movement, tokenized assets, and institutional workflows. As the network is used for its underlying utility, demand is driven by real transactions and not hype. That means value is created through adoption, integration, and long-term usage rather than short-term trading cycles. In this model, token holders benefit as the ecosystem grows because the network's purpose is to move real capital and solve real problems, not just exist as a speculative asset. I want everybody to remember about the dot-com bubble, how it had winners and losers. And everybody needs to realize that crypto will as well. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that Canton Coin is the chosen one by any means, because I'm well diversified. I actually hold most of the assets in the picture in my portfolio, i.e. this picture here. And I still hold a long-term bullish perspective when trading activity flips back risk on. I'm just here to show you all the current data, and the current data is speaking to you. Whether or not you choose to listen is entirely up to you. And so here are just the screenshots to show physical proof that the market shed from January 5th to February 5th over $1 trillion. And this is literally mind-blowing, because you know how many people say that Bitcoin is a safe haven asset? I honestly fully believe that this pullback showed to some extent that embedded in crypto, out of the layer ones that exist, Bitcoin did not act as a safe haven asset in this most recent market turmoil at all whatsoever. Whereas Canton token, had you have had your money in Canton token during this last 30-day downturn, your value in your portfolio would have actually sustained itself, and if not, made you money. From January 5th to February 5th, Canton's price held over 24%. That is massive. Then if you look at the valuations on the monthly over the last month, right? Canton is still up 29% comparative to all these other assets. Now, I'm not crapping on all these other assets. Like I said, I hold a large portion of a lot of these other assets in my portfolio. But this, to me, as an investor who actually likes to make money and preserve my wealth, was a massive wake-up call. So why am I reading this to you guys, and how is this going to trickle down into something that Ripple just recently announced? Okay. Coming over here to a panel discussion from Signum that took place just yesterday, February 5th, live streamed, the chief investment officer at Signum, Fabian Dori, said something very particular. So shout out to Signum for this. You guys can go watch this yourselves. Shout out to the CyberX researchers for sharing this in the private CyberX Discord. Think about this, guys and gals. How much information did we show you all here at CyberX that nobody has seen? This particular video has 16 views. 16. 16 people have seen this. Mind-blowing to me that there are billions of people on this planet and millions of people in crypto, and nobody's actually watching what the banks are saying. So listen to what Fabian from Signum, who is a large market participant in the crypto ecosystem, a Swiss bank, and listen to what he says about how people should be focused on networks that actually drive utility, and the utility then trickles down into the token holders. Listen to what he says here.
Provide a certain floor on the drawdown side. But then also the on-chain activity, which is still growing, very much driven by stablecoin adoption, tokenization, and also tokenization of stocks and other financial assets, which is clearly progressing. And then also staking frameworks that are much clearer, bringing assets on-chain. I think what also speaks for an improvement is the fact that many protocols are reviewing their tokenomic models and redesigning them in a way, or trying to redesign them in a way which brings true value accrual to the token holders. For example, by generating real revenue, which is then brought to the token holders in form of token burns, instead of just pure inflation, which is currently seen quite negatively. What is also an interesting indicator to follow are exchange reserves, which are at.
Okay, so what Fabian just said is that a lot of protocols are going to start to redesign their token models, right? So that way the value that accrues on the network actually trickles down to the token holders through burns, right? So on and so forth. Think about that. This is coming from Signum. Then once again, keep this in the back of your mind when we read this fundamental piece from Ripple that they just put out, because this aligns with that redesign mechanism that Fabian just mentioned, okay? But I first want to play a video clip from Yuval Ruse to show you guys why Canton's price looks like this compared to the rest of the market. So that way you guys don't sit here and say that I'm hyping Canton coin or anything like that. I'm not shilling it to you guys. You can invest in it or not. But considering what the gentleman from Signum just mentioned, Canton is already 10,000 steps ahead of every other project, because right now they're one of the only projects that has already designed their tokenomics for this exact environment, right? This is crazy. So listen specifically to what Yuval Ruse says here from Canton Network. Shout out to the Milk Road for this podcast. It was put out 2 days ago. You guys can go check it out over on the Milk Road YouTube and just listen to what Yuval Ruse says here and how this aligns with exactly what the gentleman from Signum just said.
Very quickly and easy to understand for people like me, what exactly is Canton and what problem are you solving for these institutions that's making them sign on with you?
Sure. So you maybe we should start from a point you made in your introduction, which I think we'll probably discuss in more detail later on, which is you said Canton has been the only thing that has been green for the last week or so. And maybe another one that is worth highlighting is Hyperliquid. And what's unique about the two things, which is I think that one of the things that I found very compelling when I got into this space a long time ago was this idea that crypto pitched itself as a way for everybody to own a piece of infrastructure that actually generates utility for the world. And the reality is that I think that us as an industry have done a lot of great things in terms of proliferating the technology, explaining why this technology is important. But when you end up thinking about most of the tokens that have been launched or the ones that are already still in existence, not a lot of value gets accrued to the token holders. And, for us, one important thing, and we'll talk about how we did that, was to make sure that whatever success we have on Canton, whatever utility we drive on Canton, that value needs to mechanically flow down to the token holders. Now,
so word for word, exactly what this gentleman here from Signum just said yesterday, only has 16 views, mind you, again. So think about that. Why do you think, again, the retail crowd tends to lose? Look at the statistics. 98% of retail traders don't actually make money in investing and trading. Is it because they're not tapped into what the institutions are actually telling? This gentleman from a bank said that most networks are about to start to redesign their tokenomics model to fit the model that Yuval Ruse just said they already built Canton to represent, right? Which is exactly why Canton's price, comparative to all these other assets, you can't make this screenshot up. It's the data is right here. This is physical proof that what Yuval said is actually happening in real time. And I had the pleasure to actually speak to Yuval on a podcast the other day. You guys can go over to Yuval Ruse's Twitter profile and you can listen to this live stream and listen to what Yuval Ruse says at about 23 minutes into this podcast, where he talks about how 95% plus of the digital asset landscape is just speculative trading. And people are starting to wake up and realize, oh crap, I actually need to start to rotate into real utility. Listen to what he says here.
Canton coin hit a new all-time high, and it was an interesting screenshot that I shared earlier today where the rest of the market was relatively down comparative to Canton coin's price action. We actually, I believe, jumped into the number 15 spot, surpassing Chainlink. Not that this is a competition by any means, but it brings me back to something that in a recent podcast, Eric, a co-founder, said. In particular, he specifically mentioned that we could see a scenario where we see sideways to downwards price action as kind of like a macro backdrop in the digital asset ecosystem or the risk-off spectrum, and that Canton could continue to burn through it. And we could see an anti-correlation with the macro kind of risk-off spectrum, because as we continue to drive more utility into the ecosystem, it generates more burn. Could you all kind of expand on that and go into some details on why you all chose to implement this burn and mint equilibrium and kind of compare it to some things that you've seen in this space over the last decade, without naming any names or particular chains, but just kind of go into detail on that a little bit?
Oh, really? You see, I was about to give you a name of a chain.
Okay, I mean, yeah, if you want to name some chains, sure. If you want to piss some people off,
because I think Charles from Cardano was giving me a hard time. I mean, listen, I think that what you're seeing in the market is that it's almost like bots and users are effectively just reacting, and which makes sense, by the way. But you have chains that are static, where the transactions don't burn coins, the supply is fixed. They did a pre-mine, they did something like that, and you end up realizing that mechanism means that the value of the coin, the value of the network, is pure speculation. Right? There's networks that have, if you actually calculate the dollar volume, the dollar value that gets processed on those chains, and the market cap of those chains, we're talking about, in some cases, thousands of multiple That is not rational, right? That's just, sometimes I'll say on podcasts that crypto have defied the laws of gravity for way too long, and the reality is that what you're seeing, I would say, generally speaking, is that, Bitcoin sells, Ethereum sells, and everybody is just correlated to that, right? So maybe the way to think about it is like in equity markets, or in just generally speaking markets, there's what you call high beta assets, so more risky asset. So if you think about large cap are the most safe assets, small cap are the high risk assets. So small caps are a high beta asset. If the market sells off, you expect that small caps will just sell off harder. If the market rallies, you expect small cap to rally harder. It's just how it is. So kind of similarly speaking, what we're seeing here is that there's nothing fundamental happening other than Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that's just generally speaking, there's a risk off. And therefore you're seeing that all of the alts are getting decimated as a result of that. But I gave an example of a hyperliquid, and we'll talk about Canton. At the end of the day, if the mechanism of your chain is saying, listen, if utility grows, the chain will be less inflationary, or in some cases, even deflationary, that's just going to go contra. Now, I think that when you look at the volume of Canton, it's very low. And, we as a foundation, me, myself, can't even tell you how many people approach us to generate volume on the network. And we always refuse. We want the volume to grow, but it needs to be organic. It needs to be real volume. So I think what you're seeing is that the people that are focused on Canton are the people that are actually not looking at like macro and don't just like sell. I'm not going to say, there was someone just, sold in the last, hour or so, did a big sell. But I think generally speaking, what you're seeing is that people are rotating, in my opinion, into where there's high utility. That's what I think you are actually seeing. And that's why I think it's a contra to what is happening, is you're just saying people are saying, okay, well, I need to risk off. What do I rotate in? And I either rotate into cash or I rotate into things that I think are just safer.
Yeah, safe haven.
Bro, let me ask you a quick question to just make sure I understood what I heard. He said that he's been approached to bring basically not organic volume to chain, and he's refused.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, if he's been approached to bring inorganic volume to his chain,
What do you think all the other chains have been doing?
exactly.
Bingo,
And what did they,
baby.
what did they say yes to when? And why, as a matter of fact, why is he the only one I'm actually heard this from?
Bro, I'm
Really?
telling you, the screenshot, I cannot stress enough that I hold, again, most of these assets in my portfolio that you're seeing on the screen. But there's a wake up call, y'all. This screenshot over the last 30 days is a wake up call.
Yeah.
In crypto. Now, because again, we got a bunch of split community members. Some of you guys hold Canton, some of you guys don't. Most of the people that follow myself and Aqua probably invest in this one digital asset here, XRP. Okay. So remember, I want to present the hopeful, right, forward-looking mindset, because remember this gentleman, Fabian, he did mention that most layer ones are about to start to transition and redesign. He specifically said redesign their tokenomics, their tokenomic models to fit exactly what Yuval Ruz just mentioned Canton already does. So there is hope for these other layer ones if they can redesign their token model to do exactly this. And if not, then we're most likely going to continue to get dumped on every time that there's a risk off market sentiment. Now, with that in mind, I said here in this post to you guys, but yeah, Aqua, you're spot on, bro, with that speculation. I think that if Yuval has been approached to pretty much present fake volume on the network, what do you think all these other chains have done?
Exactly.
I said here in this post, every XRP holder should be paying attention to these developments very closely. And so now, because this popped off, got 50,000 impressions, let me explain why, so you guys have a little bit more context after listening to the gentleman Fabian from Signum, Yuval Ruz, and now after looking at the freaking decimation in the crypto market and how Hype and Canton are two of the only projects that actually fit this burn model in their tokenomics that then trickles down to the token holders because of the underlying utility actually driven through the network, burning the underlying token. Well, let's take a look real fast at some of the pretty much comments from Ripple themselves that they just put out, which align with this redesigning of the token models, right? The tokenomics. So I said every XRP holder should be paying attention to these developments very closely. Let's read this. All right. So we'll go over to the Ripple website. You guys can go check this out yourself. They dropped this just yesterday, February 5th, 2026. I'd go outright and say that if they don't commit themselves to these things, to these announcements and to these developments, it should be very concerning in my personal opinion. I'm going to be holding them accountable to this and paying attention very closely to some of the developments that are, according to them, coming soon. Okay. Because if they don't, again, it's a case for concern how, remember I mentioned that all these networks are constantly saying utility this, utility that, but actually in reality, they're just speculatively traded right now in the moment. There is no underlying utility flowing through the network at scale right now. And this picture says it all. You can't make that up. That's not me speculating. That's me showing you guys the facts. And the facts is that the underlying utility on these networks that claim that they have underlying utility flowing through the networks isn't actually happening at scale like they are saying. And instead, they're just speculatively day traded with over leveraged hype. And this market correction, like I said, was a wake up call to that reality. Now, I'm hoping that in the future, the vast majority of these digital assets, whom in which most of you guys probably hold in your portfolio as well, actually transition and are actually adopted at scale by these financial institutions and these enterprises and so on and so forth, which I do, by the way, think is going to happen. But right now, we have to come to terms with the fact that it is not, right? And hopefully have a forward outlook that it will. But again, like I said, we need to hold accountable claims like this from Ripple themselves that this is going to happen. So back to the redesign. All right, let's read this. From feature set to financial infrastructure, because this aligns with what Fabian said, that layer ones are starting to redesign their tokenomics to, again, hopefully reflect the price and the demand of said digital asset by actually burning said digital asset via the driven utility on the network. So the XRP ledger has evolved into a high-performance blockchain for tokenized finance with compliance tooling, real-time settlement, and asset layer programmability, now live on mainnet. In parallel, XRP, the native digital asset powering the network, has seen a surge in both direct and indirect utility. You would think that if it's seen a surge in direct utility, that the price would reflect that utility. You have to ask yourself the question why it is not. Again, I'm not speculating. I'm here just showing you proof that if demand is surging on the network, why is the price not surging? Okay. There's a reason for that. I'm not here to debate what that reason is. I'm just here to show you guys the proof. This latest institutional DeFi update lays out how core features are being adopted, how XRP is used to facilitate key institutional workflows, and where the roadmap is headed next. With native on-chain privacy, permission markets, and institutional lending set to go live in the coming months. So here it says in the coming months, we need to hold them accountable for that. Let's see if that actually happens, right? I'll be paying very close attention, and I hope to God it does, because XRP is still my biggest bag, right? XRPL is positioning itself not just as a chain for tokenization, but as an end-to-end operating system for real-world finance. At the heart of every institutional use case is XRP. Its impact spans both direct and indirect roles. The direct impact is underlined by new features that drive transaction volume and attract asset issuance to the XRPL, increasing demand for network resources and therefore XRP. So this is great. Again, that aligns with what Fabian said, that a lot of layer ones are going to start to redesign their tokenomic models. The indirect impact we can also hone in on comes through how XRP is used in base layer operations like reserve requirements, transaction fees, and I highlighted in green, it says resulting in burning XRP and bridging currency and FX and lending flows. Because what did Fabian say? He specifically mentioned the tokenomics and the utility of the network resulting in a burn of the underlying digital asset. So let's hope that this really does take place, because it will most likely create a surge in demand for XRP if it does, which I'm hoping it does. Payments and FX, fast, compliant, and liquid. XRPL's heritage and payments continues to mature with new infrastructure upgrades. Down here, it mentions permission domains, permission DEX, stablecoins on the XRPL. XRP impact. Every transaction, particularly in the PDEX environments, burns XRP. These flows increase as stablecoins and FX corridors deepen on the XRPL. In the XRP use case, it says in the PDEX environments, XRP acts as the auto bridge asset in FX and remittances, settling trades between stablecoins and other tokens instantly and with fee efficiency. Then here it mentions unlocking the balance sheet. Institutions are exploring XRP for collateral optimization and capital velocity, supported by token escrow, batch transactions, and MPT, or multi-purpose tokens. The XRP impact is that MPT's escrow and settlement workflows increase network usage, which would be good, especially if increased network usage does what? Burns XRP, right? And requires object reserves and transaction fees all denominated in XRP. Use cases: asset managers deploying tokenized money market funds or high-grade collateral uses on the XRPL for issuance, escrow, and delivery versus payment, all involving XRP at the protocol layer. Then down here, it mentions credit financing. The XLS66 lending protocol enables fixed-term underwritten loans with repayment automation, which is cool. XRP and lending, where XRP can both be borrowed and lent. It's also the default bridge asset in FX flows and settlement. Evernorth says here is actively preparing, doesn't say it's happening yet, which is a good key vocabulary word, which is why I highlighted it in green. Evernorth is preparing to utilize the lending protocol to generate institutional grade yield on its extensive XRP holdings. Today, we are thrilled to announce Evernorth's intent to utilize the upcoming XRP lending protocol as a core pillar of our digital asset strategy. That is coming from Sagar Shah, the chief business officer at Evernorth. And then he mentions that this will unlock major yield opportunities for the XRP community. So this was such a great post. And if you come down here, it just talks about some things that are coming soon, which again, I mentioned every XRP holder should be paying very close attention to. Okay. Confidential transfers for MPTs, enabling institutional grade privacy on the XRPL by encryption, transaction amounts, and balances using zero knowledge proofs. That's huge because we know institutions need privacy capabilities in order to really scale on these layer ones. But nonetheless, okay, it just goes to show that Ripple and the XRPL, they're kind of waking up to this whole nomenclature of the redesigning of the tokenomics model, that once the underlying utility actually scales, it should result in burn of the XRP, said, then transforming into demand for the XRP token, which will then trickle down into, obviously, of course, supporting the underlying token holders of XRP. So hopefully this kind of presentation and this release from Ripple themselves shows you guys that all of this is in the works, okay? Which is why I'm still optimistic that it could possibly happen. But this just goes to show that it's only really happening right now on a few layer ones, not all of them, okay? So wake up call, because if this does not change on layer ones moving forward, again, diversification and shifting allocations in certain projects based on how they transform in the future moving forward is of key importance, and not marrying a bias if these layer ones cannot transition and actually allow the value on the network, the utility of the network, to reflect itself and trickle down to value for the actual token holders. Kind of catch my drift there? So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I hope that playing physical videos from actual representatives from banks helped you guys kind of understand that this shift is happening and it's taking place in real time, and showing you guys that Canton has already been focused on this for over a decade now, and it is reflecting in real time. Hopefully more layer ones can do the same thing, especially considering that a lot of us have invested our hard-earned money into these projects. And I'm assuming, just like myself, you guys are tired of getting dumped on because the utility that flows to the network doesn't actually trickle down and support or benefit the underlying token holder. Okay. So again, I'm super bullish on XRP if they can pull these things off that they've mentioned in their own documents, but I will be paying very close attention to these developments in the coming months ahead. As they've stated themselves, all of these things are set to take place in the coming months. So if we get to freaking, 2027 summertime, and they're still saying in the coming months, when in this document it says in the coming months and we're in 2026, I'm going to start to question these things. I'm just being completely honest, Go ahead, Aqua.
As you should, as
anybody should.
Yeah. I think that they're with this. I mean, I feel like this is just my opinion now, right? But how long Ripple's been in the game, I don't think we should be reading something that's saying coming in the coming months. I think this should have already been done. But that's just my opinion. I'm really nobody here, but comparing to other people like Canton, Metallicus that already have ecosystems that are already ready to go and being utilized right now. It's like, man, Ripple, you're kind of behind then. But again, just my opinion. So yeah.
I think that, if I'm being completely honest, it still opens the door for opportunity. But when things really start to move fast, there comes a point in time where people are going to have to really make a decision on what networks are actually being utilized and what networks people speculated on were being utilized. I don't think we're fully there yet because I still think there's time. We're still obviously, of course, in the early innings. And I think that what Ripple's built out and the partnerships that they've accrued are not for no reason. I think that they will eventually materialize into something very, very valuable for XRP holders. That is my firm belief. But again, this is coming from Ripple themselves. So if Ripple themselves are saying these things are supposed to happen and then they're supposed to reflect as underlying burn resulting, says right here, resulting in burn on XRP due to the demand on the XRPL, that should reflect itself in a more stable or disconnect on XRP's price from the rest of the market sentiment, like we recently saw on Canton and Hype. I guess what I'm trying to say is everybody in the XRP community has always said, oh, decoupling, XRP's decoupling, XRP's decoupling. No, it's not. And I've been holding XRP since 2016. This picture right here over the last 30 days, when the market has lost $1 trillion in value, physically proves that XRP is not decoupled from the rest of the speculative hype in crypto, and that there's only about 3 layer ones, Hype, Light, and Canton. Well, I don't know, excuse me, if Light is a layer one. I'm sorry, I'm ignorant on that. But those are the only 3 assets out of all of the freaking altcoins right now that have actually held on to any gains over the last 30 days that the market shed $1 trillion, which goes to show how many networks aren't actually being utilized at scale right now. Again, I hope that in the future that changes, and I have faith that it will, which is why I still hold XRP. But we have to start to really track these things, and if they don't change, we got to start questioning the shit,
Yeah. Facts. Yeah.
So,
well, it's going to be an interesting next 6 months to follow up on this topic, to be honest with you. So
100%, bro. And like I said, I'm very hopeful that this will change on a lot of layer ones and that they will, shift a lot of their tokenomic models to actually accrue value for the underlying token holders. But nonetheless, if we're investing in something, I'm sure that all of you guys, just like myself, came into crypto to make money. So there comes a point in time in your investment career where if you're not actually making money, you got to figure out why that is, and if you don't, then you're subject to not make money. And that's weird that you're investing in something to make money, but not making money, but then won't adjust your portfolio or diversify into something else that could actually make you money. That's where tribalism comes in and blindfolds come in and biases come in. And if you are biased, blindfolded, or tribal in this space, when the market looks like this,
yeah.
some people are going to win, some people are going to lose. Not everybody won in the .com era when they were investing in all the projects and this and that. And the people that won were the ones that were able to adjust, move portfolio allocations around to other projects and other niche categories that were going to perform better and this and that. And it's going to be the same here,
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that these numbers change over the coming months. I think they will. I think a lot of layer ones will be adopted by institutions. They will be utilized at scale. But we definitely need to pay attention to which ones those actually are and not the ones we think they're going to be.
Yeah. Think or feel, or your favorite YouTuber told you so, all that shit is for the fucking birds now at this point. And if this is not a sign to be diversified, I don't know what is. And good luck to the ones that are single asset investors in the space. I think that is one of the most scariest things that you can do with your hard-earned money, is just put all of your eggs in one basket. So yeah,
I couldn't agree
diversity is
more.
key.
And also, too, not only put all your eggs in one basket, but you remember a lot of these large institutions haven't gotten in crypto yet. Obviously, of course, aside from the infrastructure and the regulation not being firmly put in place. But why? Because there hasn't been any real solid way for them to hedge against what we just experienced recently, which is the volatility in crypto. Well, now for the first time, we're about to start to see institutions generating yield on their digital assets at scale, which is a really great, phenomenal way to hedge some of the risk that you experience in downturns like the one that we experienced. Because everybody right now, regardless if you agree with DeFi or not, or use DeFi or not, everybody that's earning on these digital assets, okay, say for example, XRP, you're earning some yield. Say you're earning some yield. I know Solana, you can earn 7%. XDC, there's protocols that allow you to earn on XDC. Aptos, you can earn 7%. Link, I know you can earn yield. HBAR, you can earn yield. SUI, I know you can earn yield. ICP, so all these assets, right? I think outside of Quant, you can earn yield on certain protocols and platforms, or just through native staking. But the truth is that everybody that's earning yield on these assets that has a long-term perspective on them, when the market does turn around, what are they going to have more of? They're going to have more of these assets. And so what does that mean? That means all the people that were earning yield this entire downturn, even though their portfolio might be down, the amount of block space that they own is actually going up. So when the market turns bullish again, they're going to actually have more money than the people who didn't earn yield.
Yeah, that's well said. That block space is key, and getting your digital assets working for you to gather more space for yourself. Ah, man, you're leaving food on the table if you're not tapped into DeFi in this moment. So that's not financial advice, though.
But yeah, great call. That's really all that I had for today. Again, we're not biased. We're not opinionated in the CyberX 1228 Club community. We just do research, and we unfortunately are in an era where, because there's so much information out there and people gravitate towards the hopium and the hype, unfortunately, in crypto, when you're actually spitting facts and value to people, it seems arrogant, or it seems like, oh, they think they know. No, everything that we said in today's video breakdown can actually be factually proven. If you just take a second and you peel back the curtains and you take off the blindfolds that these other people put on you in the space, and you actually just really look at what's happening. And I know that there's a lot of like-minded individuals that tap in with us that appreciate the value that we put out here. So shout out to you guys for tapping in with us this Friday. As always, we'd love to have you in the private CyberX community. We've been freaking cooking in the private CyberX community so far in 2026. I'm not even going to get into that today, maybe in another call, but we have been absolutely cooking in our community. So we'd love to see you guys on the inside. Yeah, go ahead, Aqua. You had something?
I was just gonna say we've been crushing it. Everybody has. It's the energy too is just so contagious, I feel like, in our community right now. And that's why we have so many people passing as well. It's just like the energy is real. It's so organically real, and everyone's helping one another. And yeah, tap in with us. You're missing out if you're not.
Yeah, it's been pretty phenomenal. I mean, if you want to talk on that, we can. I can bring up some of the screenshots, bro, and show some people that the people are freaking really winning in our community.
Let's talk about it for a little bit before we jump off. I'm down, because it's a big deal right now in our community.
It really truly is, man. It's mind blowing that it's February 6th, bro, and we've had 8 people so far this year alone, because we have so many more, but 8 people alone this year so far have become fully funded traders. I'm trying to find the screenshots right now so that way we can dive into it. But it's freaking mind blowing, bro. It's absolutely mind blowing, considering the statistics that 90%, I'd say even 95% of retail traders don't actually make money in this space. They come in with high expectations, high hopes, and inflated mindsets and perspectives, and they get wrecked. But in the CyberX community, like, look at this. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This dude, freaking Lee CK, made a $10,000 trade the other day.
Damn.
He
He caught the beginning of that trade.
110%. Grow Your Vibes, Joshua, Elaine, all of them. Steve, they all passed challenges. So now they're all operating with 5 to 6 figures worth of capital, and they understand how to make money in both bull and bear markets.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's super powerful. What would you say the number one reason is as to why people should learn how to read fundamentals and understand, I guess you could say, intraday price volatility? What's the importance of learning to trade in this new like digital era, bro? Why do you think it's so important for people?
I feel like there's a long list. I mean, one of them is to basically rely on yourself in the space. It's really easy to lose money, especially when you're ignorant to things. So when you know what you're looking at and you come in with a game plan, if you get super bullish on some project and you don't just completely FOMO in, but you have patience and you say, all right, well, the market is pumping right now. Maybe right now is not the best time to buy into this project. Although I like this project and I really want this project, let me wait, right? As opposed to buying in on that project in that very moment, when you're feeling that FOMO. And then 2 weeks later, the crypto market cap takes a 30-40% dip, and now you're looking at your portfolio like you just lost 40%. Had you been aware of all of that, you would have been patient, you would have waited, and you most likely would have got in at a better price to see more upside once the market decides to correct itself. But it's just it's like it's also like it's like driving on a highway and not understanding the rules of the highway, right? You're most likely going to get into an accident. If you don't know what a stop sign means, you're going to run that stop sign and most likely get hit by another car.
Damn,
But
that was a really good analogy, bro.
yeah, I was saying that to myself too when I was saying it.
Why are you on the highway if you don't know how to drive a car?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. That's like 99.999% of retail traders. They come in, they download an app, they watch a YouTube video, and they think that that's what's going to bring them success. It's really actually kind of crazy when you think about it, like logically.
Yeah.
Like, how many more people would actually make money if they studied fundamentals, if they joined a community of multiple, not one, multiple seven-figure mentors, which we have in this community, and actually paid attention for like a solid 6 months instead of focusing on making money for your first 6 months? Imagine if you focused on learning how to make money. Think about that. Think about what I just said. Don't focus on making money, which is what everybody does. Focus on learning how to make money,
Yeah.
right? It's crazy. I'd sum up what you just said as risk mitigation. Like, why should you learn these things? Risk mitigation. Your goal as a trader and an investor is not to make money. Everybody's here to make money. Anybody can do that. Your goal should be preservation of capital and risk mitigation. And if you can do those things, you outpace 99% of retail investors, which nobody on the internet teaches. Nobody on the internet shows you that that's actually where your mindset should be. Everybody on the internet instead focuses on $100 price prediction.
Yeah. And then it's like, how many people, let's just say XRP does go to $100. How many people are going to be able to catch that wave and sell their XRP at $100? Or a majority of those people are going to be spinning the block and riding that wave back down. And then so they've seen their portfolio go from, A to Z and then right back down because they didn't have a game plan on when to take profits or even when, you know what I mean? Maybe you took profits too early too. And there was so much more that you could have gained by understanding the markets and stuff. So, yeah, it just makes you a lethal weapon, I feel like, in the space. And when there's a lot of fear in the space, like especially right now, you go on X and there's just so much fear everywhere. You don't walk with that fear, in your sights of the space when you have an understanding of how to trade and how to read markets and fundamentals and all that stuff. It's more of like, well, this just comes with the territory and this is just where we're at right now. Take advantage,
Here's a perfect testament to that, bro. Francois. It's so funny because I've been calling him Francis for like the past year.
Yeah.
He told me the other day on Zoom, he's like, bro, I've been in this community for a year now and you've been calling me Francis, but my name's Francois. And I'm like, damn, that's so much fancier. Why didn't you correct me a year ago? But he said just yesterday, he said, I just wanted to take a moment to genuinely thank you for what you're building and sharing with this community. The level of knowledge, structure, and transparency you bring is rare. And it's made a real impact on how many of us approach the markets, myself included. The way you break down price, risk, psychology, and execution has helped me move from chaos to structure, which is exactly what you just said, Aqua. He said, I recently passed a challenge and now I'm funded. And that wouldn't have been possible without the principles and discipline you constantly drill into us. Beyond the setups, the way you teach mindset, discipline, and process has helped me see the markets very differently. Thank you for the time, energy, and consistency that you put into this community. It doesn't go unnoticed. I like that right there. You helped me see the markets differently. Imagine how many retail traders would just be so much more successful if they understood that there is literally a layer of garbage on social media that if they don't pull and make an effort to pull back the curtains to siphon through that garbage, they will constantly be on the losing side of the markets. And it's because most people that create content on the internet aren't actually making real money from these markets. So they're just putting a bunch of opinionated bullcrap out to you guys. And then you gravitate towards those opinions. And because those are losing opinions, what you consume is a reflection directly in your portfolio. And so they lose and then you lose. And it's a never ending cycle. So what you really have to do is learn how to see the markets differently for what they really are. Even just the other day on a lesson that I did with the community, because Reuters put out an article about how the Fed wash situation weighed on crypto sentiment. And I was reading the Reuters article and I'm like, bro, this article would distract retail traders. So let me go into the community. I'll show you guys. I went in and I was like, let me go into the community and let's host a fundamental lesson and break this down so that way our community is not like completely mentally screwed. And look how many people tapped in. 20 people tapped in, like all liking the lesson, reading it, like everybody giving thumbs ups. Somebody said this is epic, right? Because it just shows how if you peel back the curtains and actually read the fundamentals behind the scenes and don't get distracted by the hype, you can actually really see what's happening. And it's a choice everybody has to come to terms with, whether you're going to really actually learn these markets or you're just going to try to. It's like growing up, bro, especially in America. I don't know about other jurisdictions, but in America, they embed the lottery fixed mindset into you from such a young age.
Yeah, they do. 100%.
And that mindset trickles into your investing and even just general work career. It's pretty scary that most people come in and they think that they're special. And unfortunately, we have to understand that as a retail trader, we're actually at the very bottom. Actually, as a matter of fact, if there was a bottom of the totem pole and then dirt underneath of that totem pole and then ants in that dirt, and then on the butt of the ant in that dirt, little tiny particles, that's us as retail traders. And when you humble yourself and you understand that you're going up against in these markets, whether you're in crypto or trading commodities or trading futures or trading Forex, you are going up against the smartest algorithms in the world, the smartest AI components, the smartest traders that have Harvard backgrounds, that have freaking Yale backgrounds, that went to freaking college, like all this crazy stuff, bro. It really wakes you up and you realize, like what you said, you should not be driving on this highway unless you know how to drive.
Yeah. And once you learn how to drive on the highway, at least for me anyways, I'm like, damn, I wish I would have learned sooner. I wish I would have made this but I'll be real with you though, too, because it's like coming into the space, there's so much garbage TA out there, TA being technical analysis, especially on X, that none of it comes to fruition. A lot of these guys are just giving you retail bullshit, gimmicky TA. And joining this community, man, the edge that I've learned within our community, it's just like, wow, but that comes with being aware of our community and then taking the steps forward. Had I not, I would have never knew any of this stuff. You know what I mean? But the fact that I said, you know what, this actually, I recognized, I was like, you know what, this looks like some real authentic trading going down by this gentleman. And it doesn't look gimmicky. It's not like trying to flaunt, you know, chains and cars and big houses. It's like, nah, like this guy really understands what he's talking about. And when you get in, it's just like, damn, the retail crowd is just, it's on so many levels. It's so screwed because not only are they paying attention to bullshit Moon Boy garbage, but then they're also paying attention to those same Moon Boys that are giving them like their weird TA that they learned. I don't even know where these guys have learned this shit. Some of the shit that they say on their TA is just like, it's more than laughable. And it has hundreds of likes, thousands of views. And I'm just like, this makes zero sense to me. And that TA won't even hit. Nothing will come to fruition from that technical analysis. And I'm just using just anybody random on X, but like people still continue to buy into that garbage, you know,
bro.
And
imagine if in this community we actually flexed how much money the mentors in this community make. Like, bro, if you just go into our community and you look at how much our institutional scalper, I talk about this gentleman all the time, and people don't even realize like how crazy it is that you could be in our community and talk to a dude that has 13 years of hedge fund experience, like actual live hedge fund experience, builds real institutional algorithms, like fucking real ass institutional algorithms, and makes millions of dollars. Like, just look at this shit. I've never flexed this before. Look at this, 20 grand the other day, 10 grand the other day, 15 grand the other day. Look at this, 31 grand. Like, that's already over 100 grand in a week. Look at this, 60, 27 grand, 25 grand. This dude is phenomenal, and he's at everybody's disposal in this community to ask questions, to interact with, to need help, to anybody that needs help. Like, I'm talking about a dude that actually has a financial background, you know, licenses, like a career in finance, sits down on meetings with freaking other institutions and people from hedge funds and all that stuff right here at your fingertips in the CyberX community, which is nuts. You know, it's one of those things where a lot of people think because we're making content on YouTube and stuff, we're just another community. No. When you come in, you find out like, oh crap, like there's a dude in this community, and then combined between myself and you, who is now, you know, you became a 6-figure trader and a 7-figure investor last year. All of us combined have over 20 years of market experience that people could take and soak up and learn from. This is no game.
Yeah. And like, and I mean this humbly. I'm not even trying to like brag or boast or anything. Like, you know, I've been trading for 6 months now, and this week I had an amazing week. But today alone, I'm small compared to what Cypress just showed you guys. Between my two accounts, I made about 3 racks. So my account 1, I made 2,500, and I think you just passed it if you go up a little bit. I shared the screenshot though. Or wait, no. That was from the yesterday, I think. But hold on, today should be in here. I did definitely put it in there. I think that's it. Yeah. So that's what I made on my account number 1, 2,500, and then the second account 400 and whatever that is, 427. Done for the day. That first one was like 2 trades, and then that one was another like 1 trade. So 3 trades I took today. And that's small, you know, but for me, I'm just like, damn, this is crazy. This is so cool. But there's just so many more levels to climb, you know, because there's others that are absolutely crushing it. So that small speckle on the ant's, you know, behind is exactly correct. But yeah, I mean, don't miss out, guys. If you feel like, you know, this is tugging on you, take action. Like take action. Don't just keep telling yourself, oh, you know, maybe by this summertime, I'll learn to do this, and stop putting it off. Like, I'm so happy that Cypress, you know, really told me, he's like, hey, bro, you should really take this serious. Told me that shit 6 months ago, or like 8 months ago. And it was the best thing I could have taken action on, because had I not, fast forward, you know, I wouldn't have been able to say everything that I just said right now. I'd have to just kind of listen to what Cypress was sharing, you know, and I wouldn't be one of these ones that have accomplished it as well. And I feel like anybody that's on this podcast right now, if you've been tuned into this entire podcast from beginning to end, and you can hang with this conversation, you have what it takes to learn how to trade. You have what it takes to learn DeFi, you know? So tap in with our community. There's just so many ways to make money in this space. stop relying on your crypto asset one day going to the moon and start making money now.
I think
That's what
people
matters.
need to first believe in themselves, but also stop thinking that their past defines them, right? Like there's a lot of people that have tried it. They've tried to become traders and they failed, or they tried to join other communities and it didn't work for them. Well, when you think that, you know, it becomes an unchangeable reality when you think that way. When in reality, your perception of how you go about things is what changes. And that's what changes as you go along. You know, experience is kind of like multidimensional. You are a variety of different memories, like experiences, feelings, gists, and you can choose to recall certain ones and reflect on certain ones, and you can choose to, be indicative of your present state of mind. So many people get caught up in allowing the past to define them and haunt them. um, you just need to evolve past that, believe in yourself, and understand that we're transitioning into an environment where, like, a lot of things aren't going to last in the next 5 to 10 years. Like, think about the AI evolution that's about to take place and how many jobs are going to be displaced. You know, if you don't have a set of digital skills to be able to make money with an internet connection and a mobile device or a computer by yourself with no overhead, no boss, no dependency on anybody except yourself, you're going to be in a position where, a certain onset of the population, especially in America, is going to be in a pickle. They're going to be in a pickle because it's going to be too late. And you don't want to be in a position where it's too late when you have the best opportune moment to not to rush this, to tap in with the community of like-minded individuals that really, truly are here to support and carry the weight of all of your mistakes. Cause that's literally what I've been doing for the past 6 years. It's really draining, honestly, mentoring people. I'm not going to lie. It's not fun at all. Like being a mentor is not freaking fun. It's invigorating and I love doing it because it is my sole purpose to help people elevate spiritually, mentally, and physically. But when you're a mentor, you literally have to deal with not only your own problems, but everybody else's. And, people have a lot of problems, but when you're willing to push past those problems and instead of seeing them as problems and be a problem solver and learn from them and really freaking evolve, there is a lot of money to be made in these markets for people that actually want to learn how to make money, not people that want to hope and dream about making money, which is 90% of the crowd. You watch a video, you hope, you put your money, like maybe you make $1,000 a week and you're like, okay, I'm gonna put $100 into the market and I hope it's going to turn into, thousands of dollars in the future. I'm telling you right now, that is not an applicable strategy. It's most likely not going to work. And there are people that are much hungrier than you that will supersede that hope because they're willing to put in effort, action, effort, consistency, discipline. And if you can do those things, you will freaking surpass the hopeful you. Matter of fact, throw away the hopeful you and instead become a disciplined, well-rounded, well-educated, focused individual that humbles themselves and understands that hope is not going to get you anywhere. Action and consistency and showing up when others won't is what's going to get you there. And you will freaking supersede the person that lays in bed every night dreaming that you're going to become rich or well off or financially stable enough to quit your job or take your wife or your husband out on a nice trip or to a nice restaurant, to someone in the next 6 months that actually can do those things. And there are people in our community that you can learn from, not just the mentors, but the actual people. Like, dude, over the past month, we've had everybody going into the DeFi chat and jumping on live calls, trading live. It's pretty crazy to see some of the dudes in there trading live. And they're actually freaking, Al was on there the other day showing people he had a banger week. He made like $1,000 this past week, taking little tiny scalps at the market. And it just goes to show that people are really putting in that effort to stop being so hopeful and instead taking action, changing that into a reality.
Slow and steady wins the race. You've been saying that for a cool minute. And, don't let time goes by so fast when you're just watching garbage. But when you put in that time, it's slow and steady. But, by the time you're done, it's like, man, the noise hasn't changed. It's the same noise. It's the same shit. just the same videos, reiterating it in a different way. So don't let that time pass up. And that's just more time that passes by that you could have got ahead by learning this knowledge and learning this edge and being tapped in with a community that hasn't missed. Our community hasn't missed yet. So
you said time, bro. And I think, honest to God, like that's one of the entrapments of the matrix that has so many people confined to break out from their current environment is time. Like a lot of people probably listening in have a 9 to 5, or maybe, you have a busy life already. You have kids, you have responsibilities, and 100% get that. I used to be that guy. When I got out of the military, I was a contractor. I had no personal time, or at least I thought I didn't. I had no free time. I was traveling 2 weeks out of the month, like always gone, always on the road. But then I realized, like, what am I doing in my life to where I could like supplement things to start to learn something new? And then luckily enough, COVID happened and I was like, okay, cool. But dude, everything changed when you start to realize that each of us when you really come to this conclusion, okay, nobody is different in this regard. We all have to have humility in this regard, that we're all the same. We all have 24 hours. That's it. 24 hours. And so how is it that somebody can take that 24 hours and become a multi-millionaire and somebody else can't? Well, if you think that way, you're incorrect. You can. You just have to figure out how to supplement the time that you do have, even if it's very little, for the things that are going to get you to where you need to be more successful. So let's say, for example, you have a 9 to 5 job. I get that excuse all the time. Man, Cypress, I work so much and I really want to learn how to trade, but how can I? If you drive to work, if you have a 20-minute, 30-minute commute to work, and that's the only time that you have to study, you bet your ass. Actually, as a matter of fact, there's a dude named Eric in the community who passed a challenge like 2 months ago, and he told me that the only time he ever got to study the CyberX course was when he was driving to work, bro.
Damn.
So every time he would drive to work, that was the only time he would watch the CyberX course material. And over the course of like 6 months, he got through it and then transitioned from, watching the course to in the evenings when he would get home, he would trade Asia session for an hour before he spent time with his family. And he just supplemented things. So instead of listening to music on his commute to work, he supplemented with CyberX material, So you just have to find out how to take the 24 hours that you do have and make things work. Take things out that do not benefit your existence and supplement it with things that do. And you'll come to realize that in reality, you just have a bunch of shit in your life that you could supplement and throw out or make sacrifices to implement. For example, if right now you have such a busy schedule, you got kids and you have a 9 to 5 job, so you got to wake up at 7 o'clock to cook breakfast before 8 for your kids, before you leave for work at 9 o'clock. Well, what should you be doing if that's your schedule right now? And throughout the entirety of the day, you don't get home till 9, 10 o'clock at night. When you get home at 9, 10 o'clock at night, you got to cook some dinner quick for yourself, put your kids in bed. By then you're exhausted, you're tired, and you're sore. That entire time, you could wake up an extra 30 minutes, an extra 20 minutes in the morning and watch a CyberX video and take notes on it. And one video per day for a year will get you through the entire course. And you'll be that much smarter and that much more advanced by just doing that once a day, 20 minutes extra a day at the very beginning of your day. So don't make up that excuse that you don't have time. If that is a 110% excuse, an excuse that I myself used to make till I realized the truth is that everybody, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and the freaking homeless bum on the streets, we all have 24 hours a day. So what makes those people different? It's how they spend their time, how they execute the minutes in the day that they do have, and what they orient their attention to.
Yeah. There's a quote, and I've said it before, I think on the podcast. I'll kind of just say it without saying it verbatim, but it's, do today what others won't, so you can have tomorrow what others don't.
I like that. I tell the community every weekend, like I'm going to send a motivational message out here in just a second to the Discord members. I tell them every weekend, if you work a 9 to 5 and everybody at your 9 to 5, tell me this right now if you're listening, because I know I used to work the 9 to 5 on Fridays in the office and shit. Everybody be like, oh, thank God it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday.
That's
like,
real.
What are you going to do this weekend? oh, I'm gonna chill, you know, whatever. No, fuck that. 90% of the population is chilling on the weekends. That's where you should advance. That's where you got that time off. I mean, not to say that you shouldn't take a break, because rest is obviously, of course, a good part of the progress as well. But incorporate some momentum into your weekend. You know, start to prep ahead so that way next week you're already ahead of the curve. You know.
Yeah. Facts, bro. Facts.
So, but yeah, man, I'll let you go, bro. But it's always a blessing to talk to you, bro, and be on the podcast with you. And honestly, too, just to see your journey as your friend and originally as your mentor. You know, it's really cool to just see you grow and develop, bro, and trials and tribulations. And this is just the beginning.
Yeah, bro. I appreciate you, bro. You've done a lot, and you're the man, bro. So yeah, much love.
I'm gonna be flying out to California once this winter thaws out a little bit, for sure, because I need to get some of that Cali good, you know?
Let's go.
I miss the California tree.
You know I got it.
Yeah, the California tree has been calling my name, bro. There's no place like it. So,
Sheesh. Yeah,
but
bro.
yeah, always,
yeah.
man. It's a blessing to you
Yeah.
guys being on the
Yeah.
podcast, and take it easy. Everybody have a good, productive weekend.
Yeah, much love, everybody. Peace. See you guys next Friday.
You guys take it easy.